Oh, okay, I see. Built in. All right. Yeah, I'm seeing the indicator showing up that it's picking
Or
something
you
up.
could have
Yep.
them
Okay.
build
Thanks. Bye.
structures with spaghetti.
When your son calls to fix your
Dry
problems at
spaghetti
work.
noodles and marshmallows. Have you ever seen those before? Kids love them.
Oh,
And
really?
adults like them too.
Okay.
And so you
All
can
right.
build it up to a certain height.
Okay.
Or just whatever you want.
So let's start with. We don't have a lot of different topics to talk about today. Um, we'll start with the budget, the financials. It's still really tight. We have right now $1,400 um, of profit, but we have outstanding bills of about 25,000. So money will come in this month to cover that, but right now we're not making up much ground. The biggest, and that 25,000 doesn't include the 20,000 to Habitat for Humanity, which we haven't paid yet because they just recently, just last month, found a lot. They're not going to actually begin building until the spring. They want to do a publicity kind of groundbreaking on November 11th that will coordinate with them. But as far as when they would need our donation, we don't know. I'm meeting with David on the 15th, one day next week, and the project manager to kind of see what their timeline is and when they would like that. So if we could push that off a little bit, that would be really helpful. But we'll see. I'll report back on what happens in that meeting and when we might need to do what. So, anything to add?
Well, everything will it'll be a lot easier to project the balance to come in at the end of next month. Or
Okay. Yeah, the way the money only goes into this account twice a month, gets transferred from Klein May into this. So sometimes the timing with when our bills are due and things is a little funny.
Do you have any concerns that we're not going to be in the hole at the end of the year?
I think we are if we have to pay out Habitat. If we have to pay it out in full.
So as we talk about budgeting for next year, which we'll take a look at a little bit again today, and then next month is really kind of the where we'll have a sample for you guys to look at. That's something to think about. We might have a little bit of catch up to do. Let me check my email real quick. In our team meetings this week, at both locations, I asked about photography and how it's going with you, Booker. And in both places, people seem to be having issues with being asked to choose a photographer first. Apparently, and when you're online, there's no option for choosing the first available photographer. When you're on the app, there is. So what people were saying is, you put in your address, you have to choose your photographer. Then when you do that, you're taken to their schedule, and you're kind of subject to what their availability is. And if that doesn't suit you, then you back up a step and choose a different photographer and see what their availability is, which is kind of backwards from the way it was explained to us, I think. So I don't actually book appointments on that system. What's your experience? I was hoping Ashley could join us, but she hasn't. I didn't get a reply. Who's used the new system to schedule, and how is it going?
I have.
I have to. I mean, it's exactly what you just said. I mean,
It is okay.
To me, that's like making us do double work.
Mm-hmm.
It would be so easy if we could just have the list of photographers come up and be able to look at the first available schedule and
Mhm.
choose that, because I really don't care
Right.
who comes and
That's what
takes
most
my
people
pictures
said.
of my
Right.
listing. I don't care, because obviously I'm trusting Ashley and Ryan to interview them and make sure
Mhm.
they're
Right.
good at what they do. So I do not
Right.
care who comes to
So
do my
apparently,
listing.
if you use the app, there is the choice. There is a first available that you can choose.
So yeah, I was using my I was
But
on my
it's not. We
laptop
pulled the
scheduling
we
it.
pulled the website up yesterday morning, and it's not on there. So,
I used my phone the last time. I didn't have any trouble except for
Okay.
like when, like I go, okay, because I just have Brian and,
For Augusta, that's who
Right.
I was
Jason,
doing Augusta
yeah.
listing. I only had
Yeah.
2 choices.
Right.
yeah. So then I said, okay, I went back and then I did first available. And then Brian came up like for the next day at 11:45. I said, yeah, go for it. So,
Okay. Yeah, I thought what I heard when Ashley was explaining this was people would put in the address, and they'd put in their preferred day of shooting, and then the computer would say, okay, what photographers are available?
That's what I thought. That's what
Pick
I
one, or just say it doesn't
That's
matter.
not-
But it seems like the reverse is happening. So,
Yeah, Matt was trying to schedule something a couple days ago. He was on his computer and he did the normal, put all the information in, and then it was like way far out. And then when you backed up, it lost all his information. So he had to go and re-enter it in back in to be able to like choose the first whatever. And he called me over, and I mean I couldn't really help him because
Okay.
I don't really usually schedule.
So they do all that.
Yeah, they do
themselves.
all that. Yeah. But he had some frustration of losing all the
Okay.
information and not being able to find first available on the laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked Ashley if she has any time today to meet and talk about it, and told her we happen to be meeting this morning if she could drop by. But we'll see. So I also heard in the meetings of a couple instances of people. They're supposed to. We go into the system. They pick the photographer and that use the SunCalc and pick the exact time, and then they're supposed to let us know that appointment time 36 hours before, at least 36 hours before. And I'm hearing of a couple instances of 9 o'clock the night before, 11 o'clock the night before, appointments getting changes. We're getting texts that, hey, your appointment's been changed. Has that happened to anybody? Any of you? Okay, good. Maybe it was more isolated. Basil had one really weird the night before. At like 12:42 a.m. an appointment was rescheduled, and then at 12:43 it was canceled altogether, and then nothing after that. And of course, Basil's head just exploded.
Bottom line, those sellers, it's whether it's an appointment to show or an appointment to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
To a seller, they just want to know what time someone is
Right.
going to enter my property. And sometimes we are at a property, for whatever reason. Sometimes we're
Mhm.
not. But those sellers,
They do.
they
do.
want to know.
they want to know the time they'll be
Sure.
there. They want to know how long they'll be there. So they can move things
Sure,
if they
yeah.
need to.
It could involve moving pets, that
Yeah.
type of thing. And
Right.
so it is a big
And that's
deal.
why we asked for the 36 hours, so everybody, if they're going to monkey with the time based on their schedules and everything else, and the sun, that's great, but give us plenty of notice.
Right.
And so on the ones you have booked, are you getting a day and a half notice?
I haven't booked one on the new system.
Okay.
We booked on the new system, and we booked it, and we didn't get nothing beforehand. We just knew that when we booked it, it was 9:30. What's today? 9:30 Tuesday morning. I'll be there, and at 11:15 he was there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and I showed up because this seller has twin boys that are 2 years old
Mm.
and 2 dogs. So you can only imagine.
Mhm.
So I knew she needed the help
Yeah.
to tidy up. So I arrived at her house at 9:15 for 15 minutes of
Mm-hmm.
Lisa throwing stuff in closets, helping her
Mhm.
get ready. And at 9:30 he wasn't there, and at 9:45 he wasn't there. And I'm like, okay. So I texted him at 9:45, and I'm like, just curious. He was supposed to be here at 9:30 because we had heard nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be 30 minutes late. So that means he should have been there at 10. He got there at 10:50. So in the meantime, got stopped and got a ticket
Mhm.
and stuff.
Yeah.
But still, my seller was kind of, she didn't lose it, but she said it would have been really nice
Mhm.
had I known. I would not.
Relax a little bit and put stuff in
Because
the
she
closet.
literally
Kind of
went
close,
to bed at 5:30
slower
a.m. that
pace.
morning because of getting her
Shift
house ready
workers.
for the pictures.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
went to bed at 5:30. She's like, I could have slept another hour and a half. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. You know, usually
Mhm.
if they're going to be late, I'd have heard from it maybe a little before,
Mhm.
just after, because I didn't check in till 15 minutes after he was already late. So I don't know. We just need to make sure. I would say the photographers really need to, if they cannot make that appointment, they need to let us know prior to
Of
when
course.
they're supposed to
Sure.
be there, not
Sure.
15 minutes after.
I mean, we imposed a penalty, which I had supported, for same-day cancellations. If the photographer's already allotted that time and they're not going to make any money for that time, that's not okay. And so they can't do the same thing to us.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
You know.
So that was,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, my
absolutely.
instance was I said it was the day before. It was actually a day and a half before. So I booked it like on a Tuesday, and it was like Tuesday in the evening. I got the notification on my email that I had an appointment. I didn't get anything at all the next day. I thought, okay, they'll update or move or do what they need to do.
Mhm.
I didn't get anything before, so I didn't warn because I wanted to give a more accurate time. I didn't want to dance around the time with them. And the photographer shows up, and they're like, "Hey, there's a
Yeah.
photographer here to take pictures of the garage." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh!" And then I was like, "Was it me or what?" I'm just
Mhm.
used to what they've done before. Hey, your appointment is. That was the
Right.
only hang up with me. That was me too. So,
Okay.
so.
Who else has stories? I think we really need to keep an eye on this. You know, we had to make a really hard decision.
Yes, we did.
And if things don't go the way they were described, we may have to make another really hard decision.
And here's the other thing, we're slow now. We
Mhm.
can't have this happening when
Yeah,
we
in
are
May.
booming with listings.
Okay, so I've requested a meeting. I'll let you know how it goes, but I think it sounds like there's still a lot of confusion. Stuff not working the way it's supposed to.
And maybe it's a communication breakdown where they're not relaying what the expectations of the photographer should be to the
Mhm.
photographers.
I thought, I mean, yeah, that could be the case.
I mean, if she's still trying to take care of it all.
Right.
And then they're just not knowing what is their responsibility to do, especially if they're being over apologetic once they're getting there, once they know something has
Mhm.
happened. But maybe they're leading up to it thinking, oh, I didn't know I was,
Is it open or vacant? Like, maybe there could be a thing on there. Is it vacant? Can they take a little bit extra and go grab a bite to eat before
I mean,
they
we
get
do
there?
that when we're showing property. You
yeah.
can say, I've got
Mhm.
3 vacant and 2 that I've got to make sure I've hit the time, and so
I put that, I mean,
when I'm showing.
although I haven't used the new system, on the old system, I would put in the notes section, this home is vacant,
Mm-hmm.
so that, because
Right,
you're
so they know they can
We-
play
You
around with it.
adjust it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Or that you
If
if
it
you're,
took longer at one showing.
you can
then-
relax if
right.
you're running a few minutes late.
And the
because-
the opposite should be true too. That if you have a situation where you've got twin toddlers and dogs, you could say, "Hey, we've got a very full family here, and it's
Yes.
really important that we're on time,"
Yes,
and kind of put them on notice.
Maybe we should. Maybe
I
we
mean, use
should do
those-
that
that
too
notes
to
field.
warn them. Yeah, the notes.
Yeah.
But the thing though too is that I know like when we schedule home inspections too, is the buyer going to be there or
Mhm.
the seller? In this case, is the
Mhm.
seller going to be there? Those kind of things. So
Yeah.
maybe
Hopefully
we can
not.
ask that
We
as
should
well.
do like a lunch and learn with Ashley in the group or something,
Mhm.
because I think it would be good for the photographers if they could all be there. We
Mhm.
all to kind of hear this feedback, because
Mhm.
then you got the actual people in the room to say, "Oh, I didn't understand that was a
Right.
issue."
Mhm.
Okay, well, we need to adjust this or that. So
if they
And- yeah.
typically,
I don't know.
And
I don't know.
nobody, you can't push it off on anybody else because they're all
Right,
in
because
the room.
everybody's here.
Right.
I think we got used to Ryan and Ashley texting us when they're running behind.
Mhm.
And even before we did the switch from the downtown, right before that, one of the new photographers didn't call me when he was going to be late or text me.
Mm.
And after a half an hour, and it was a vacant house, but my seller wanted to be there. And she said, "Is he coming?" And I looked up the number and texted, and he said,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm running behind." And
Yeah,
I
so
think they
that's-
just need to know.
That's just
they
a
have to
training
let
issue
us
on
know,
their part.
yeah.
They've got to let
So it's been
the
that way
folks
even
know what the
before,
expectation
you know.
is.
And there's no excuse. I
No.
mean, you could get with communication now, unless you're, you know,
Unless
really
you're-
out in the boonies,
Right.
there should be no issue.
Yeah, text means a lot.
They have the creative, relaxed mind, and we're like schedule oriented, so it's hard
That's a
to
huge
marry
part of
the-
it.
I think
That's,
Very
that's a
good.
huge part of it, right?
it's sort of
Right.
yeah. I'll get there.
And that was Mike's theory: is that take a person like him, who has a very logically oriented mind, but understands the creative people, he could manage them and just let them not worry about that.
Right.
Just here's your schedule today,
Mm-hmm.
and so that should be what Ryan's doing with these folks, as he's training. Anything else for the list? Okay. I did talk last week. We talked about our never-ending search for a client relations management system, a CRM, that could track or take our leads from 5 Street and dump them in there and right in your account. And you could follow them all the way through to closing and then communicate with them after. And some of us had looked at demos of this program called MoxieWorks that is incredibly cool. It plugs in with all kinds of other stuff, including .loop. But it's about $50,000 a year. So one of the brokers in our group had been using it, was very complimentary, and we happened to be visiting his location last month. So I talked to him about it, and he has now gone with a franchise, and he's using their system. And none of the other brokers in the group are using it. A lot of them have looked at it, and pretty much everybody choked on the price like we did. It just doesn't make sense at a certain point. So nobody had any experience where they got it for a lower price or could buy less of the package. So we're not following up with them. The folks in the group, kind of surprisingly to me, the overwhelmingly most popular one is Lone Wolf, because almost everybody uses Lone Wolf for their internal accounting. Most of them use QuickBooks like we do to coordinate with it. And so the Lone Wolf has I think it's called Global Wolf, that has a CRM package that ties in with it. So I think we should look at it. I've never really taken it seriously because I hate the interface that we have now. I mean, it looks like a 1985 computer program. And something like that would not be adopted. You guys would not use it. But, I mean, there are, I think, 4 out of the group that are using it. So,
Did
think
they
we-
say what it looks like to the agents?
they said it looks a lot better than what we use.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to see anybody's. But I'm sure they've got some good demos and stuff. The other one that one person is using is called Pipedrive, which is one we kind of looked at. You may have looked into that one at one point. You did,
I felt 2 people said that.
and got good reviews about that one too. So I think that's something we can check
I
on.
don't think that's going to fit most agents because it is like bare bones. You make it what you want. You got to go in and set everything up.
On an individual level, we can't do it
I
company-wide.
haven't looked into line pricing. There may be something
Yeah.
like that, but it's really cool because you can make it look exactly like you want with whatever fields and such. But each person's not
Okay.
going to have the ability to want to go in there and do that.
Right.
Probably.
There are.
It's nice.
It gets great reviews online, and the folks in the group felt the same. They also have heard good things about a program called Zoho, which I hadn't heard of, and we'll check into. And then I've been playing around with one that is honestly called Less Annoying CRM, and it's really cool. I think it is one that agents would adopt.
When I
So,
read that, I thought.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
We're all
The
just happy to
description.
say.
and I had to click on it just because I liked the name, and it's and that's kind of their attitude, that people don't need a fighter jet; they just need to be able to track their people and communicate with their people. So.
What was the adoption rate for the Broker Wolf version, or do they have any idea? Because Moxie kept saying, "Oh, we have
Right.
everybody's
Super
gonna be
high.
like 95%
Yeah.
adoption rate
Yeah.
or something."
I don't think they said.
And they-
Other than
they-
it was generally well liked. I don't think anybody made it mandatory, so it's the kind of thing. Some agents will take advantage of it, and some will. But it was
I had this
fairly good
discussion
comments.
with another realtor about it, and I just said it's so hard because every realtor is different, has things set
Right.
up differently, and there's not like one shoot, it fits everybody.
Right.
With the CRM, somebody's gonna want this to do a little bit more, somebody's gonna want to do a little bit less. So it's a tough thing to do as a company, I think.
How many realtors do you think will take advantage of it?
It depends on what it is. These folks at Moxie said their adoption rate is over 70%. I think Dotloop is a good example. That's kind of, we didn't force it on people, but now it's almost 100%. I don't think something like this would ever get to that, but I think if it was easy to use, it would be. I mean, the thing that I think would get a lot of people to use it is if you can track your leads and track the results, you know where you should be spending money, and you know what's not giving you any return. And that's something that's always been the great mystery to us is where are the serious leads coming from? And then also your sphere, since we know that's 2/3 of your business for most of your career, being able to have a central system to manage those folks and regularly stay in touch with them and categorize them in whatever ways you want to is a huge, huge, huge benefit.
I'm trying to find on here. I'm on this Rockstar Real Estate Rockstar on Facebook, and from time to time they ask what's the best CRM, and then people. Well, here's one. It says which CRMs are affordable and have customizable email and drip campaigns. Bonus if there's a website, and then there. It says. Anyways, I'm not gonna say what that says. Lions Desk, All Streets Realty, Big Purple Dot, Keys. No, it's a BOOJ. And then Brian Buffini's Conversion.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there.
Skylar.
The problem is most of them that we've seen are not made specifically for real estate. They're made for any kind of sales force. And so there's some things that aren't quite perfect about it. The cool thing about MoxieWorks is it started with it was developed by a real estate company in Colorado called Windermere, who we've admired for a long, long, long time. And so they had it themselves and loved it so much they broke it out as a separate company and now sell it to other folks for a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, and it's a subscription thing, so that's the least you're ever going to pay. It's going to go up every year from there. So it just
Once you're in it, yeah.
yeah. So we need to find something like that.
It must
How do
work
you all
for
like
them to be able
brevity?
to do it. It must
We
work.
like it. Yeah. It does like transaction management so I have 2 screens. I always have Brevity up, so I have my to-do list for the day. And then we have all the leads and you can sort them filter them with lots of different options. We've had it hooked up to Zillow and Realtor.com, so it automatically goes in. So when we have a call or whatever, it shows up as a person, as a lead is added. So yeah, we like it.
Okay.
I don't think it's blowing our minds away.
Yeah, that's kind of the
But,
impression I got.
Yeah, I
That's
think.
okay.
It took us a while to get everyone sort of on it and using it, but it's better than we used to use Nutshell for CRM, and that was very convoluted how we did it.
Okay.
Especially because we do our big mailing in January,
Right.
And so we needed a way to sort and not have 2 pieces of mail go to the same household.
Right.
So we had companies and people and all that. So that's we have a better way of doing that with Brevity. But this is going to be this January is going to be the first time where we're doing it full from Brevity. So last January we still had Nutshell and we were transitioning over, and so this is going to be the first time. So hopefully all the kinks will get sorted out. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be one to look at too. I had asked Chris and Banner about it, and they both were kind of lukewarm, so I hadn't really looked into it too much more. It's yeah, we don't hate it. So if any of you have had any experience, anybody use Top Producer at any point in their careers?
I know somebody
New
that
agent
swears
did.
by
It's
it.
weird. I mean, we've had so few people to use it, and I think it's an example of one that's just way too much. It's overwhelming to look at.
Minnie used it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said she just puts everything in Top Producer, and then she said something about it started getting too expensive or something like that.
Mhm. So I guess they like everything else, they've gone to a subscription.
Mhm.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about our TV show. We talked last month about this committee making part of that show's expense part of our budget. We've never done that before. The alternative would be raising prices for having houses on the show, which is we've only done once in 15 years. Meanwhile, the cost of production is going through the roof. So the thinking was, if we raise prices, that'll lower participation, especially if the market gets slow. Whereas we could keep the pricing the same and use our shared fund to cover some of it. So Rebecca worked up some examples for us, which we looked at last month, and I included them again here. So what we're thinking is that Klein May, as a company, would budget $25,000 to go to the show. If we get our remaining two sponsors, we would end up being short still about $13,000, which is what this fund, the shared fund, would cover, which is 30% or so company money anyway. So the agents would be covering $9,000 as a group. And then if you kind of to go along with that, Amy and our video people at Appeal, the next page you have is a new kind of marketing flyer for getting sponsors for the show. If you have anybody that you want to talk to, let me know. We can get you these printed on cardstock or email you a PDF or whatever you'd like to, however you'd like to present it.
PDF has hyperlinks, so I think it'd be better if you emailed it to people because they can click on the video, they can click on the picture, they can click on the house board and see links for everything.
Cool. So I'm interested in your thoughts. Like I said, by next month, I'd like to have a sample budget for us to look at. So in general, how do you feel about the concept of adding, say, to be conservative, $15,000 to the budget to cover the show?
Yeah.
I mean, do you agree from an agent's perspective that if we had to raise prices, that would probably drop participation, or is it something that you just value so much you cut something else? Lisa's rolling her eyes a little bit.
No, I think it would probably drop some participation for sure. Well, I have a question about sponsors. Is there a certain amount of sponsors, or can it be unlimited with how many sponsors we get for the showcase?
Well,
is it a certain?
We have 6,
Okay.
and they get 2 commercials each, so that's 12 commercials in the show.
Okay.
I think, what was the email discussion? Andy thought we could
And
push
we could push it to 8.
to 8. So if we could find those people, they could alter the show. That would take some time away from the houses. We lose some.
You'd lose
Some
a
listings.
million
Save
savings
for
for houses.
That would help pay for the show.
And that would help some.
People
So
don't
a fully
watch it for
a
the
sponsor for a
commercials,
year
Mhm.
would kick in $6,000.
though. People don't watch it for the commercials though, so I mean, I know that.
Right. I think you have to keep that balance. My thought was 8 was too much because that's 16 commercials in a half-hour show. Andy said, kind of in the TV world, it's
Mhm.
not. But
Especially
I know it
when they're the
annoys
same
me when I'm
commercials.
trying to watch a show and every 8 minutes I'm having to watch 2 minutes of commercials.
It annoys me.
I mean,
Terrible.
Mhm.
I
That's why I
mentioned one
DVR
time
everything.
about product placement, doing something within the house, you know, where waterworks, you know, somebody has the reverse osmosis in their house, and you did something where you focused on that system and said, oh, that was provided by Waterworks or whatever, one of our sponsors, and it's only just a moment on the screen, but Waterworks pays to have the mention or something like that. You have, you know, the Toyota dealer, Meg comes up in a new Toyota and says,
Like a
"Oh, by the
Mazda.
way, this Toyota is from XYZ Toyota," and they pay because she says that, and it's only just a second in the actual part of the house showing in the featured house or houses, not the boards, because they just kind of go by. But in the featured houses, you could do 2 or 3 product placements, I would think, where there was something in there that would. I don't know if they'll pay for it. That's the idea. Would somebody pay a small amount for that?
What if Amy had an interview with somebody or something?
We do that.
was-
That's one of the benefits that they get. They can be on 2 Klein May corners a year and talk about whatever they'd like.
Okay.
And some of them take advantage of it, and some of them we never see them at all.
I was just thinking something that pertains to your house, and like, I mean, we have the home inspectors and the things like that, and SPCA and things. I wondered if somebody would want to, if you asked them to come and talk, if they would say, "Here's some publicity for you," maybe $200. I don't know.
It's going to depend on the price.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about having room in the budget for next year? Put it in, since we're so tight
I
this year.
think we would probably have to make some adjustments. Yeah,
We'd have to drop something else to
I
do
would
it.
think. Yeah, maybe we drop
Why is
some
photography
other kinds of advertising.
about 30,000 more, 25 to 30,000?
That's a good question. We had a price increase, 15%, I think, when Mike took
Compared
over.
to shoots, how is that
Um,
from last year?
The shoots are about the same.
That's a big jump.
So yeah, it is a bit of a mystery because people are ordering a lot more of the additional services, but that's
But they pay for
all
those.
paid for.
Yeah.
So I know we had a bunch of additional photography for the luxury book, but other than that, where we asked them to go out and reshoot stuff to make it look better.
That's a lot.
But
Mhm.
that, yeah, I don't know.
Is there any way to find out why that happened this year? And if it's going to stay up at that, or is it going to come back down?
Well, I have a copy of every invoice that was paid, but the transition from when Ashley was doing it, then when it went to, what's her name? Megan. Megan was, right? Megan was doing it. Then it was completely different, and then it's back. So, it takes some time to weed through there. If I was weeding through there to find errors, like charge errors.
We did find some
Yeah, we did
the first time around.
pull a group of them.
Yeah,
and then
some errors, and then
just,
some where we had situations where there were a large parcel that was being divided up into 5, and they charged us for 5 shoots. Our new contract says they'll charge us for 1.
There were several instances where that happened.
Was
So,
that during the downtown
Mhm.
time?
Right.
downtown creative time?
So we probably paid too much money out there.
They definitely billed a lot more aggressively than Ashley and Ryan. for
And
sure.
then every
Some things that Ashley would
Right.
just tends to throw in.
Mm-hmm.
every
Like they
on-site
bill us
thing, with
for.
every on-site thing that they were asked to do, we were billed for.
So even if the pictures weren't up to par and they went back, did they bill us?
Oh,
for
no.
those?
No, not that.
No.
But like I'm saying, a lot of times Ryan will just show up and take pictures of,
Update the something.
like, and maybe this is something that was charged, but I'm just going to use this for example. I don't know if Amy had called him or who called him, but he was upstairs taking
Yeah, I called
pictures
him.
of the renovations or
Mhm.
whatever. A lot of times like that, say he took some this day and then he come back and he took some later. That's just how Ryan operates. And if he thought he missed something or too many people were in the way or it wasn't clean enough or whatever, but when anything that was considered scheduled or on site, or it was on site with an agent or whatever it is, we had a different kind of charge with Downtown Creative because they were paying the other photographers too. It wasn't just Ryan doing all the work.
Mhm.
So do you have an idea of what your budget would be next year for photography? I mean, that's a hard thing when you jumped from 78
Right.
to 93.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll have to estimate under our new contract. And I don't think it'll be as high as this year.
Are people
I think we
really-
got billed a lot more in the first half of the year
That's
than what we were expecting.
yeah, out of this
And then
financial, that's what sticks out as
Absolutely,
really,
right.
really
That's the
off
big change from
kilter,
last year.
yeah.
this is something Amy may know more. But okay, so you're saying shoot count is very similar,
Mhm.
but
Well, I don't
What
know
about-
that.
what
I know
about-
listing count
Okay.
is fairly similar.
but size of home is what's going to
And that could very well
alter
be.
that.
Right. That's a
if
great
there were
point.
more,
Our average
higher
price has gone
ends.
up, so we may
if it
You're
or if the
shooting
square
bigger
footage
houses.
went over, if there were more on that upper end.
Boy, we
That's
got a lot of
actually
lower ones
a
too,
really that's a great idea
Explanation of what's
for the
going on.
budget because I can look at our listings for this year
to see what the comparison
and,
is.
See what the
and
size of the houses
see the average square footage and then compare that to last year and use
And
that
are
to
you
predict.
seeing more people requesting to go do land shoots? Used to be we didn't do,
I have noticed that we really anything that was
used to didn't recommend land shoots.
yeah.
Unless
But I
it
think
was
now
some
with
large
the
piece.
drones for larger pieces, I think for a simple lot we still wouldn't,
Yeah.
or they would just charge us like the exterior only fee and just drive by and do one shot or something.
Yeah, and what's that now? That's
but 40,
yeah. In my mind, it was 35, but that might have been the old rate.
I think it's $40.
So it would take a lot of those to add up.
I
I
think if
think
we
it's-
can get a feel for that, that frees up a lot of money
Mhm.
for the budget, that we could do something with the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And-
Or that makes us aware that it really is going to be that high
Yeah,
next year.
or if it's gonna be that high, then we're gonna be really tight next year.
Do people use keeping matters current or keeping current matters a lot? I mean,
We can't track it. From what I hear, it somewhat is used. I hear
I use
positive comments about it,
I use it every day. I share almost
Yeah.
every post.
but it's really cheap.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
It's
okay.
not
really,
that
really cheap.
expensive.
Yeah.
Because
But
I'm
it's,
just
I
trying to
can't tell you how effective it is, but I do see like on LinkedIn, I'll get, people they'll say I liked your post, blah blah blah. But of course, it's not my post. It's me just sharing the keeping current matter. So I can't tell you if I've ever gotten any kind of business from it. But it's sort of
It's some good information, I'll say
Mhm.
that.
yeah. I mean, they've been good. I think as far as
Mhm.
what they're offering us. Like I said, but it's one of those weird things you just can't really kind of quantify how effective or what you're getting out of it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Was logo apparel the hats?
You were thinking you missed a jacket somewhere,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Thought I was missing a vest or something.
Is it something that we can decide after we see a projected budget?
Oh yeah. We don't need to make a decision today. We talked about it last month, and so I just wanted to see if anybody had thoughts on it. The other thing that went up a ton, was our Realtor.com contract, which is a 2-year contract, so that'll
When does that expire?
go up again. I'll have to look at it. I'm not sure when it renewed.
I think we're gonna be prepared for when that renews. They bought Op City, and so
Mhm.
we're gonna start charging for leads in the next round. I've talked to a few people, and that's what the plan is. And Zillow's doing that concierge bid as well. That's the plan for both companies. They're gonna start selling to the leads instead of flat fee. Everything it
Oh,
charged.
okay.
So they're send you a lead and ask you if you want to buy it.
But they'll be scrubbed.
Uh,
Because Zillow's already been doing
which
the
is
concierge.
that's a.
But
I'm
from
sure
what I
that-
hear, they're not scrubbing them extremely well.
Who's Zillow?
Zillow.
Oh,
From their salespeople, that's their plan. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
That's what they're telling people.
and I think I saw something from Realtor.com
Yeah.
that came to me that
They
said
bought Op City.
something about it said that the quality of the lead is going to be much better, and so
They didn't
you're
tell you the pricing.
yeah, they didn't tell you about that.
Yeah,
part,
that's
but, yeah.
Op City's whole business.
So that was my
Right.
my thought too, is that they're going to make sure that they're asking the person, how soon are you going to buy? How have you been pre-qualified? All the stuff that we would normally do when you get a lead and you find out it's junk.
You go to opcity.com and just look through their site,
Mhm.
but that's realtor.com now. That's what that is. Or
Yeah.
merged at some
Depends
point.
Which,
on if
I
they have a
mean-
truth person on the phone or somebody.
Yeah, well,
that
to me,
just
it would be
fills them
worth
full.
more if I got a lead like that. But the
But
leads
would it be
I've
worth
gotten,
25%?
as soon as I go through about 3 questions, I know it's junk.
Yeah.
So it'd save you time, but you'd be paying 25% or whatever their fee's going to be.
My girlfriend and I are looking for this, So, okay, and then the next thing is, we had a bankruptcy last year,
Mhm.
My credit
Yeah.
score is 300.
and we want to see a $300,000 house, but
Yeah.
the bankruptcy won't create a problem.
John, do you have a way of knowing how
Or
many
did
of
they-
the 5 street leads are from
Did they drop it
Realtor?
back to
The
12
percentage?
months?
I can give you a breakdown.
The Realtor.com renewal? It used to be 2 years,
The
but now I'm
lion's
thinking
share
maybe they
is more
dropped
than
it
our
back.
website.
So
They
that's
could
where
hit us
more
with
of the
another
leads.
increase.
I think
Yes.
you
Look at that.
secured it for the 2 years
Hmm.
because you told them if we took on Fast Street that you would do that. You
Okay.
would take on Fast Street if they allowed you to do that. I don't have a copy of that.
All right,
Hmm.
Sharon, in the last 6 months.
I'll have to find that contract just to be sure.
5 were from just generic ClimeMate website. 95 were showing requests from ClimeMate. 444 were from Realtor.com, and 141 from ClimeMate property information requests.
So it is a large majority.
Oh, it is. It definitely. I mean, the only two things going into 5 Street, company-wide, you can put your own Zillow feeds and stuff in there, are Realtor.com and our website.
Come to the table.
And usually Realtor.com,
65%.
Yeah.
65. And I know we've had
Nearly
some of the
2 to 1.
Realtor.com leads work out and close.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. They,
It's come through
Yeah.
Fast Street. Because,
yeah, we've got several folks that pay
you know,
Realtor.com,
My-
for leads instead of
my
Zillow.
agents keep a track of exactly where everything comes from. Gives
Right.
me a report every month.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So yeah, we'll put together a sample next month and start picking it apart and considering some of the things we might have to cut. So this year also we had $16,000 in redesigning the website,
And the
which won't
TV
be there
show
next year.
revamp,
And the
that's
TV show
it.
revamp,
Yeah.
right, right.
And Carl, the print ads, the open house print ads are,
Mhm.
they're close, almost 16,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. And that's half. The company splits that cost to us. We do a lot more in Augusta County. They do them a lot, and there are 2 newspapers. So
Listen,
you got to be in
we
both.
don't do a lot of open houses.
Well, I guess I say, is that
No.
really worth it? Is it really worth it? So you said it's double that. So it's 32,000 a year
32,000 a
for
year.
for the print ad open house. Is it paying the company back for putting it in the newspaper?
How many houses, here's the
For
thing,
30,000.
a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers want to see their houses have
Mhm.
open houses. That's any time that we do them, is if the seller
That's exactly
requires it. But the majority of people that come through that open house are not a buyer. I'd say 99% are
It's
not gonna buy.
neighbors look, they're nosy.
I don't know.
It is
They're
nosy.
nosy.
So
They're nosy.
in our meetings this
Not
week,
an
we
area.
were talking about face-to-face contact and
Yeah.
using video to get face-to-face contact. And the statistic that was in the Inman article, which I've seen in the NAR thing for years and years and years, is that the close rate at open houses where you're face-to-face is about 4%. So
Mm.
4 out of 100 folks. The close rate of all of your web leads combined is about 4%. So you're paying hundreds of dollars a month to get the same close rate as you could get by holding open houses.
But
They're
the
both
thing-
low. Most of the people that come in aren't going to be your buyer, but the face-to-face is a
But
million times more
If
effective.
we quit advertising in the papers for open houses and the other companies, Funkhauser or OD, are advertising, then we're gonna lose sellers that require open houses because we're not in the
Mhm.
paper.
I literally don't get the paper. I haven't gotten the paper in 2
Mm-hmm.
years at my house. I honestly haven't looked
Mhm.
at the paper. Like, is there a lot of open
Mhm.
house ads
There is,
still?
there is.
Really?
I still get.
And
the
we
I
always
don't
put the agent's
look in the
picture in,
newspaper.
and
I
I
get
think
the
there's
paper.
value in that. We've heard people say,
Really?
that somebody will
get-
come to and say, I haven't seen your picture in a paper in a while. You're still doing real estate.
Yeah, I get the.
Let me
paper.
guess,
I
they're
used to hear
60
that.
or 70.
Mhm.
Not necessarily. I get the paper because of not only open houses, but because of foreclosures. Because I've had listings that have showed up in
Mhm.
the paper that they're for foreclose on.
Oh, yeah.
And the sellers have not been honest with me. But I did do an open house because the seller required it on one this year. And the lady seen that I was gonna be there, and the ironic thing was I had Betty there the week before. she seen that I personally was going to be at that open house. She came to introduce herself and had me to, she said, you don't know me, but I want you to list my house. And I listed it. It was a $399,000 house and sold it. So that was a benefit there, because I normally don't sell at open houses. Usually Debbie or Dana
I
does.
do lots of open houses. I get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people from open houses, and you know, they look and see. I saw you on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and then they'll come and I advertise it on Facebook, and they
Right.
come and they see. I convert a lot of the buyers
Mm-hmm.
and make them my clients.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I don't-
different in Augusta County.
I don't think we can get rid of open house ads. I think that's until it goes by the wayside for all the companies.
Totally, yeah.
I don't
Right.
think we can get rid of that.
Okay. So yeah, between now and next meeting, maybe spend a little time looking at these like we're doing here and think of things that you could cut or that you don't, that we maybe question the value of. That's mostly all. We've had, you all saw Keith's email, and we've talked a little bit about the Keller Williams push in Augusta County. As of yesterday, Christy Shirley is not employed by Klein May anymore.
That's why I haven't received the deed. Yikes, who's gonna do it?
Katie,
We got, it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Rebecca, Katie, and Elizabeth. This was not a surprise. So Rebecca, Katie, and Elizabeth have everything mapped out to where they can cover. We've got a lot of applications already in. First interview is tomorrow, or Monday.
Go to
Sorry.
Another company?
It was not her choice to leave, but we have been told, hearsay, that she's been offered a job by the Keller Williams recruiter at their title company until that office gets started
So
up,
they
and
have
then
a
she'll
title
go there.
company up there?
They have a company called Triple Crown. I don't think it's owned by them, but there's some kind of affiliation between them and Integrity Mortgage and this new office that's supposedly going to open. So just to make you aware of that personnel change, there is one agent in Augusta County. Well, there were a couple. Bobby and Tamala Krickenberger are going to Keller Williams. They're from Charlottesville. They're not getting traction in Waynesboro, so they're going back to Charlottesville. There is one other agent. I don't want to mention their name at this point because we kind of have a decision deadline of noon today, but it's pretty likely we're going to lose one more person, good person. And we'll let you know that change if it happens.
Yeah. I was recently offered a leadership opportunity at another real estate firm.
Not Keller Williams.
So it's not Keller Williams. And so how we realized things were at Klein May was that I was a bit stuck in my position on how I could grow. And so I took this opportunity with this other company, and I didn't want it to be anything personal because I'm so grateful for everything that everyone has done for me over the years and all the opportunities that you guys have given me. So it was a professional decision, and I will miss everyone dearly. But how we handle, I was a little bit concerned initially that it would be one of those things that we would cut ties immediately. But Carl and Keith were both very gracious in receiving my resignation and told me they understood why I made the decision that I made. So my last day here will be on October 18th.
And it is. We'll miss you like crazy, but it's really her dream job, kind of, with her dream company in Charlottesville. So it's a great move for you.
It's just not local here.
It's not. No, it's.
I was holding my breath. I thought it's going to be somewhere local here. I would die.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm very grateful to all of you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Follow your
Thank you.
dreams.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So
We will miss you. Ugh.
Yeah, a lot. It's been a lot lately.
Yeah, it's been a interesting couple of weeks. So we will advertise and get somebody in that position. Amy's done a great job in preparing for this and listing out everything she does, daily, weekly, monthly, annual, to try to make it as easy a transition as we can.
Do you fear that Keller Williams is going to open up in Harrisonburg?
I don't know. I really, this recruiter started with us and called Keith to try to get the whole company. So I'm sure he's trying. What we've heard is they don't have an office
Why
yet
he targeted us?
because we're number one. These guys just start. They just start at the top and go down. Yeah. What's
I
that?
think he went to ODR too, didn't
He did. At least
he? After.
Keith. That's what Keith said. He and Mike Pugh talked about it. And this happens often. We get calls from franchise people all the time. The Long and Foster guy started with us, and then I didn't hear any. We told him we weren't interested, and he kind of worked his way down the chain, I guess. And like 3 months later, they announced Nancy Bean had gone with him. So one of the smaller offices in town.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Not Long and Foster, Weichert.
They,
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I knew that she was at Weichert.
But that's just what they do. Keller is just far more aggressive than anybody else.
They train their agents to be far more aggressive.
Right.
Because we have he was the head physician at Page retired.
Hmm.
We sold his property. His family moved to Florida, and his daughter is now a realtor down there, and they are so aggressive. What they have her doing is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
Yep. It's a different kind of person that would enjoy working there, I think. And that's usually when people switch firms. Sometimes, it's most often about the culture, the personality of the firm, and are you going to like working there? So. Yeah. So on those happy notes,
Jeez.
Anything else?
That's
you
a
wanna
wrap.
tell us that's going to upset us?
yeah.
I told
no.
Carly, we've been back and forth, and it's like I said, it's like a terrorist attack.
Is there,
Like,
I don't know if this is the place to ask, but is there anything you can share with us about anything happening with Title Alliance?
We were really, really close to hiring somebody. She had a death in the family, and so the process kind of got stalled.
You're hiring for front desk, receptionist, or to replace?
This would be to replace.
And then is that just one person replaced, or are we trying to?
That is still being worked out. So, but we've got a very good person that was recommended by Karen, has a lot of title experience, good relations in the community.
So is
Things
she
are
moving
going.
back where she came from?
Don't know. They've offered her kind of a compromise, from what I understand. A decision hasn't been made.
She did a lot better on the last place you had there.
Yeah.
She's done the whole time, but that's a little too late.
Mm-hmm.
I had a closing there several weeks ago. It was right after our last discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and she did fine. But I mean, it was a cash deal.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else that wasn't on the agenda you want to talk about?
Oh, the party. This is more happy news.
Okay.
I went
Praise
to
the Lord.
Thank goodness.
Praise
Right.
the Lord.
I actually still have the flyer. So did the progressive party. That was the fundraiser for the Arts Council. I kept this. I want to pass it around. It was a really lovely event. They had a cocktail hour at Joshua Wilton House, and then people went off to various houses in sort of mostly Old Town, like Sunset Heights. And actually, Mark and I got to stay at Joshua Wilton House, which is super fun.
Nice.
But they had the sponsors on sort of easel boards throughout the space across the venue. They had the sponsors on the table, like part of the table decoration. The names were here in like the little program you got as well, and I think they thanked by name their like biggest sponsors
Mm-hmm.
during the announcements, and then they said just a thank you, like a blanket statement to all of the rest of the sponsors. So yeah, it was a really great event. Sort of like the who's who of Harrisonburg was there. I think it was pretty well attended. So. Good.
Okay. Were you guys happy with the exposure that you got for your sponsorship?
I mean, I haven't heard Crystal Grant say
Okay.
anything negative about it.
So you're going with sponsor so you can go again next year. Was it was 500?
Yeah, so
500
we
was
did the
the-
bronze and
the-
white.
right.
That's what they were
Yeah.
asking us for.
Right.
I was gonna say, I mean, you guys have done this for several years, right?
Yeah, because of our previous connection with Jenny.
Mhm.
I thought that was a Keller Williams cane.
Mhm.
KW is.
Keller Williams has everybody all upset.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what they do. All right.
Man, you just flip over the hand.
Yeah.
That's all they had to do.
That's all they had to do.
Thanks, folks. We're heading to the bar now.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah.
Actually, bye.
Yes, it's-
I understand.
We have a phone date yet, John?